Back on Golf Today. In case you missed it, there was a lot of news surrounding LIV Golf over the weekend, so let's get to it. On Sunday, 13-year PGA Tour veteran Cameron Tringale took to social media to announce that he will not renew his PGA Tour membership next season and will instead join LIV Golf. Tringale, one of several names going to LIV, including Open champ Cameron Smith, which multiple sources have confirmed to GolfChannel.com. Now, Smith, who further declined to comment after his third round of the Tour Championship, is scheduled to play the fourth LIV event, which is slated for this week outside of Boston. Meanwhile, according to a report from our Ryan Lavner, Cameron Young said Sunday at the Tour Championship that he was very interested in LIV Golf, but has decided to remain with the PGA Tour. Now, speaking to a small group of reporters at Eastlake, he was quoted saying, "Frankly, I have decided to stay. It's a really difficult situation because it's not anything that anyone really wanted to happen. I think it wasn't meant to be, this hostile between the two." Young was part of the players-only meeting that convened ahead of last week's BMW Championship. It's been a roller coaster year in the men's game, and after his victory on Sunday at Eastlake, Rory Mcilroy addressed the media and was asked if he feels like speaking out on behalf of the tour has become a burden over time.
No, I don't think so, because if you believe in something, I think you have to speak up. And I believe very strongly about this. I really do. I hate what it's doing to the game of golf. I hate it. Like, I really do. I mean, like, it's going to be hard for me to stomach going to Wentworth in a couple of weeks' time and seeing 18 of them there. Like, it just doesn't sit right with me. So, yeah, I feel strongly. I believe what I'm saying are the right things, and I think when you believe that what you're saying is the right things, you're happy to stick your neck out on the line.
More of the season that was and what lies ahead. We welcome in Rex Hoggard. Rex, you penned an article on GolfChannel.com recapping this rocky season, which has now come to an end. So where are we now?
Well, you listen to those comments from Rory Mcilroy, and clearly there's a lot of emotion in his voice, and you get an idea of exactly how fractured the PGA Tour is. I think at one point during that interview last night, Rory actually called it tribal, and I think that's probably a good testament to it. Everything that happened this season seemed to have been framed by this breakaway circuit. Everything that happened all the way from February when the rumors started to build that players were about to jump ship to where we are right now, where we just ended the season on a highlight for the PGA Tour. They just announced these massive changes last week. Rory Mcilroy, their outspoken champion, wins the Tour Championship. All of these good things, and yet we're bracing this week for more announcements of players going to LIV Golf. I did find it fascinating, and clearly Rory has been very outspoken, so there's no reason to sort of wonder how deep his dedication to the PGA Tour goes. But if you did need a better example, I was talking with Brad Faxon yesterday at Eastlake, and he said he was at that 1994 meeting where Greg Norman actually pitched the original idea of the World Golf Tour. And he said Jack Nicklaus and Arnold Palmer were there as participants. They actually spoke up and they spoke in support of the PGA Tour, but Brad made the point of saying they were just participants. Go back 2 weeks ago to the Wilmington meeting. Rory McIlroy and Tiger Woods, they ran the meeting. They had the agenda. They're the ones that wanted to get everybody in the room and make sure they understand what was at stake and how they were going forward. I think that's the best snapshot of what this means to Rory.
Rex, you've talked about how there's so many different moving parts and unknowns here, both in terms of the PGA Tour changes and what's going to be penciled in on those details, obviously the LIV Golf element and what's to come next as well. What can we expect in the kind of short term, the immediate term to happen?
Well, you would imagine within the next day or two, multiple sources have told me that Cameron Smith, the world #2, will be announcing that he's going to LIV Golf. He's going to play this week's event in Boston. Along with him will be Joaquin Niemann and Marc Leishman, the sources tell me. Now, this puts Trevor Immelman, our colleague and the International President's Cup captain, in a very, very difficult position. He will have to make his picks to round out that team next Tuesday. A tour official told me that because the team, the automatic qualifiers, have already been set, that Trevor will essentially just get extra picks. So two of those players, Joaquin Niemann and Cam Smith, obviously are qualified for that team. So essentially Trevor will just get 2 extra picks. But you get an idea of how difficult this was for Trevor. As this was sort of unfolding on Saturday, he and I were texting back and forth, and he has worked for this over 2 years now. And for him to get to the point now in the process where he's having to scramble to try to make sure that he can field his whatever those best 12 players are, it's difficult.
Yeah, Trevor's been very active on social media as well. Rex, the significance of LIV Golf adding its name to this lawsuit is what?
Well, I think that the headline that a lot of people took away from it was Jason Kokrak and Abraham Answer, you guys talked about earlier, they have dropped out of the lawsuit. So it dropped down to 7 players from the original 11. And that's certainly noteworthy because it seems like if you continue in this direction, you wonder where the lawsuit's going to be 2 years from now when we actually go to trial. But I did speak with one antitrust lawyer who pointed out that LIV Golf joining the lawsuit really doesn't change the competitive landscape of what's going to be litigated here. The facts are still remain the same. What really changes here are the stakes. It just sort of escalates where we are right now. If we get to the end of this process, and I think legal opinions go both ways on this, but if the LIV Golf players win the lawsuit, if it was just the players, that would be one thing. Then we're talking about punitive damages. If it's LIV Golf, you're talking about $1 billion corporation. It really escalates things.
Rex Hoggard reporting on all things PGA Tour, LIV Golf, and the President's Cup as well. We appreciate his time on this Monday.